Aye.
Short Bus Debate Club. It's a bus rolling.
I can get on board. Hello, I'm Darren Jolly.
It's time to get this short bus started. So let's roll and on with the show. Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us for another exciting episode of Short Bus Debate Club. This is Brian Courtney, and of course, Darren Jolly is here as well.
Do you really got to say that in a way where you just don't sound like you really believe anything that you're saying?
It is exciting.
You are a douche nozzle. All right.
It is very exciting.
Why is it exciting?
Well, today we're talking about something that I think is one of those burning issues, and it has been for a long time, and I don't even think that people truly understand the whole picture. So again, we've got people parroting whatever the media tells them or whatever their chosen politician tells them. We're going to talk about immigration and or migration and, populations of people. So, I mean, just by that alone, you should be able to see it's exciting.
Exciting.
So, we've got a wall being built, and we've had a wall down on the southern border for a long time, but apparently it wasn't good enough. Didn't satisfy the politicians and everybody else. I think it's funny because it's really just a project so that some contractor can make a shitload of money and some politician can make that contractor happy and probably get some kickbacks and maybe more than one politician. Maybe the ones from California and Texas and New Mexico and Arizona, wherever the wall is going to be, somebody is getting a kickback. And I don't know that for a fact. Please don't quote me on that. Actually, go ahead and quote me.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that there's some kickbacks to be had. I mean, I don't think that any of those. I mean, I'm sure that it was really rooted in the altruism of right-wing populism that was being espoused by the dutiful ideals of Donald Trump when he was going up and talking about building that wall.
Right. We're doing it for the people. We're doing it for you and your safety. So I think it's kind of funny. I found some stats. And I don't want to just talk about stats, but this one is important because we're building a wall and Mexico isn't even or people from Mexico are not the ones that are immigrating in huge numbers like they used to be. Well, actually, I should say in 2017, there were 4.9, and they call it unauthorized immigrants from Mexico. And then there were 5.5 million from other countries. So, and that number has continued to grow from other countries. Mexico is still number one, but you've got to kind of expect that because they're
geography is going to have a lot to do with things.
Right.
But to say that number is rising a lot says that there's some other people that had some incentive to get the fuck up there for some fucking reason.
Well, and here's another funny thing is that for every person that they grab at the border who would be an illegal immigrant, there are 30 people that overstay their visas. So that means that there are 30 times more people from all of these other countries. And I looked at the report. Denmark and Finland were number one for overstays.
Mm-hmm.
But there were a whole bunch. Fucking Estonia was on there. I thought that was just a country from that stupid movie, Encino Man. I knew
Estonia?
it was. I knew it was a real country, but It was from Encino Man.
It is funny because I got into some. Leah she had to be gone by I think the 13th of September when she was going back to China recently. One of our cohabitants at the house, actually, Brian moved in as she was moving out essentially, but because she wants to come back here, she'd been here for 14 years on various different types of visas, work visas, college visas, and whatnot. And she was so fucking hyper concerned. I got to get out of here. I don't want to overstay my stay on my visa. And I'm like, dude, if you're over by a couple of days, nobody's gonna fucking give a shit. But yes, it happens. It happens a ton. But I mean, because when we're talking about walls and you're talking about people that are like on the other side of, like the walls are cosmetic. I mean, they're there to. It's a symbolic thing. It's more about what. Yeah.
Well, and there's some irony too, because I think mostly Mexicans are building the wall. There could be a lot of Chinese people down there too, because they're coming over in huge numbers. But the actual...
Are you saying Chinese people are building the wall?
Yes. The Great Wall of China in Mexico and the United States.
I don't believe that. I just don't. Railroads, maybe, walls, at least not these walls. But whatever.
Yeah, I mean, the numbers are huge. And the reason I said people don't understand it is because I think that it's bigger than somebody just coming across the border. Okay, and regardless of whether we're talking about the United States or Germany, because Germany is the second country in the world as far as people migrating there, as far as popularity goes.
But again, totally different fucking reasons. I mean, in Germany, you're talking about Syria and Central Asia and all kinds of fucking weird stuff.
And that's an important thing that we need to talk about too, is that there's a difference between an illegal immigrant and a refugee, right? A refugee generally is going to be hiding and not necessarily a productive member of society. At least the ones in Germany that I've seen on documentaries and stuff, they're
it depends.
Kind of stashed.
But nation states, I mean, that's where refugee is a concept where like people that come and they want to be granted asylum. I mean, as refugees, they want refugee status. I mean, we're going in a million different directions here, but you make the point about there are people that are coming from Mexico, and then there are we didn't really get to this, but there are tons of people that were coming from Central America, and of course there was all the bullshit that was being said about these evil wrongdoers that are part of gangs that are trying to get up here. I mean, anybody that knows how to fucking read a book or listen to something and understand something knows that the people that were coming were people that were displaced from Central America who had lost access to their land because of the fucking drug things that were developing in those areas. You just got to look a little bit into it. But those people had
and a lot of them were just leaving because they're whatever their project, their barrio, or what do they call them in Brazil? What's the Portuguese word? Anyway, the shit places were overrun with gangs, and we're talking about violent gangs that'll chop your fucking head off.
You could die. You got to get the fuck out of Dodge at that point in time.
And that was happening in the Honduras. It was happening all over the place. Yeah. So I'm not saying that refugees don't want to work. I'm saying that generally, though, while you're waiting for said status here in the United States, and like I said, in Germany and Hungary and those documentaries that I saw, those people weren't allowed to work.
They were really hiding. But like you're saying, with Central America, they were not under Trump because they were not being allowed. I mean, there was no refugee status that was being allowed, or no. What's the other word that I'm looking for?
Asylum.
Asylum, yeah.
Yeah.
Asylum was not being granted. I don't know the specifics of it at all. I know a lot of it had to do with, of course, COVID and whatnot as a scapegoat on a lot of levels as well. But we did have a history of having asylum granting processes where, with all the shit that was going on in Syria, where you literally have people that are trying. I mean, dude, how many fucking people were leaving Syria when that fucking civil war broke out? I mean, it was millions of people. Like, the influxes of people were so... I mean, you're just talking about incredible... Like, when you... Like, war asylum seekers are different than people who are, and of course, like the violence continues to go on in Central America is very fucking real.
Right. And now we're talking about laws.
Uh-huh.
You
Yes,
know,
yes.
and I didn't want to necessarily journey down that path when I said the difference between an immigrant and a refugee. Because then when you're talking about asylum people, that's an entirely different category, you know, in and of itself. And I think things get really complicated.
Well, when you're talking about
Yeah.
people moving, immigrating populations that are going for whatever reason it is, I mean, again, we could go but so like a week and a half. You don't love the news, but a week and a half ago, Putin said they're going to annex these like 4 regions in the Ukraine, and they were going to conscript 300,000 more soldiers. So what the fuck happened? Like thousands and tens of like maybe even hundreds.
It was a mass exodus.
They fucking took off, dude. And this was again. These were people. These are not people that are trying to get out of Russia because they're. It's a totally different thing. They're just like saying, I'm not making a like the thing that I kept hearing in the interviews over and over again was, I'm not trying to make a statement about whether I like Russia or Ukraine in the war. I just want to live a life of peace with my family, and that's it. That's all they fucking want. It's not even asylum seeking just for the sake of just being able to just be like ontologically. I just get to exist without like having to kill some motherfucker that I don't even know, and I got no fucking horse in the race anyway, you know.
Right. I don't know. I think things are fucked up, and this weird, I'm gonna call it xenophobia, even though it's technically not. But you know, I mean, I mentioned Hungary. Hungary basically said, "Fuck you, we're not letting anybody else in."
Yeah.
So if they could, you know, they'd put up a huge fucking wall and just have little doors at certain border posts. And there were other countries that were thinking along those same lines, and it goes with this weird chivalry thing where I'm using the definition of chivalry not as I'm going to open a door for a woman, but you know, we're all for Hungary or all for the United States.
Like nationalism kind of.
Yeah.
Like what Modi did with India, like what Bolsonaro did with
and it's happening all over.
Yeah, I mean, the Slovenian president, a lot of motherfuckers. Yeah, weird.
And it's like I said, it's this weird xenophobic sort of attitude, and for some reason, if you jump up on a stump and say I hate somebody, everybody fucking jumps in with you and says, yeah, we hate those motherfuckers too.
Right-wing nationalist populism is very weird.
I don't fucking understand it, because I've been saying I hate stupid people for a long fucking time.
But it's because when you say it and you say I hate stupid people, and they're like, is he talking about me? They don't know. It's I mean, if it's I hate, you know, like, you know, you're in Hungary and those fucking Polacks, you know, I mean, then you can see who it is that you're talking shit about. Fucking Romanians, you know.
So I need to be more specific.
Well, you just can't, you know, like anybody can be stupid.
Right.
Stupid is a transnational, like a global, like capable category, you know.
That's very true. I guess my point is, though, that I hate the majority of people regardless of where they're from. So a wall isn't going to help.
I'm just not certain that that's going to be able to be like not a stump speech, but a literally stump speech that you're going to be able to use to mobilize people to be like, I'm on Brian's side.
Yeah,
you know?
Let's get behind Brian on this whole topic.
With the Black Irishman, you know?
So, okay. But I looked at some numbers. The UN has I don't know if I want to call it an office or like an ancillary division, but It's called the International. Sorry.
It's okay, Brian.
The International Organization for Migration. And this is like I said, a division of the United
UN,
Nations. And they look at all kinds of numbers. They look at numbers as to who's going where. They look at numbers as to who is sending money to what country and, where it came from. Of course, the United States came in number one as far as people sending money out.
When they say migration, they're talking migration under any
yes,
context.
Not necessarily illegal. Because like I've got these numbers again from the Center for Immigration Studies, and these are United States numbers. So as of August 2022, we had 47.3 million foreign-born residents. Out of those 47.3 million, they estimate that 11.46 million are illegal or unauthorized to be here. And again, that is not just Mexicans. It's Central South America. It's Asia.
Yeah, Chinese. Yeah.
It's all of them. So if you think about those numbers that I said from 2017, where for every one person they're stopping at the border, 30 people are overstaying, then that 11.46 is made up of a pretty substantial number of other countries. And that was from the Center for Immigration Studies, and you can pull up all kinds of really cool reports on CIS.org. And the International Organization for Migration, they've got this really cool fucking interactive thing where you can hover over whatever country. Like, so as of 2022, the top 5 countries from where people were coming to the U.S. were Mexico, India, China, the Philippines, and El Salvador. To make up a total of, I'm not going to do that math, but
Philippines, huh?
Yeah, and those are the top 5. And like I said, it's really fucking cool. You can just tap on, they call them migration paths. And if you look at that, each migration path, like this one here, is Mexico to the U.S. And then there are these thinner ones that are like,
they make it so that you can like visually interpret it for like the retards.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, it's fully badass. But I mean, so Mexican or not, I know a lot of people, like one of my neighbors at one of my old places was from Guatemala, I think. And his wife was from somewhere else down south. But they both worked like 3 fucking jobs, and they worked really hard. Now, they weren't illegal because they bought a house. But I know a lot of people that are or were illegal, and they busted their fucking ass. So all of these people that say, well, they come here and they send all their money elsewhere, so they don't do anything for us and they cost us a bunch of money, they're full of shit. So I don't know, what's Social Security, like 3% that they take out of your check?
I'm not sure. I think it's a little bit more than that, but I can't remember what the number is. But no matter what, yeah, it's fucking money that comes out of anybody that gets paid by anybody that's getting paid on a payroll.
Right. And since they're illegal
or not, yes.
Well, no, but since these guys are illegal, they're never going to draw that Social Security.
But they're paying. Yeah. We're both hitting in the same thing.
Right.
The money's coming out, but they're not going to benefit from it.
Never ever. And if these numbers are correct, if we've got 11.5 million people, and let's say they're making 17, 18 bucks an hour. I mean, that's a lot of fucking money.
There was a stat that I was looking. Of course, like sometimes I hate these stats because it's very difficult to like know how true or to what extent. But the fact of the point, no matter what is it, we have to understand that these are revenue streams. I mean, I read one stat that said in 2017 that 3% of the GDP was contributed by undocumented workers, which accounted for $5 trillion that year. Like 5 trillion, 3%. I don't know, but you know what the fucking truth is? That revenue stream is fucking there, and it's part of an integrated system that is very complex, and you cannot just another stupid fucking thing that people say, if you remove 8 million people, 8 million undocumented workers from the United States, then that's 8 million jobs that you can have Americans fucking. That's just the dumbest fucking thing that I've ever heard in the history of the fucking universe.
The Onion did this fucking hysterical article where it was like a day in the life sort of thing, and I can't remember for sure. I think the guy's name was Juan.
Mm-hmm.
But they were talking about how Mexicans were coming over here and stealing our jobs. And Juan stole the job of some CEO. And they took pictures of him, and he had like a flannel shirt on and a farmer's cap. And it was just hysterical because, yeah, they come over here and they work hard. But since the 90s, I don't know of very many white people that want to work at McDonald's or any fast food restaurant. I don't know of any of them that want to fucking work on a farm and pick lettuce or...
Bitch, we can't even get people to work at the fucking post office. I mean, like, these stupid motherfuckers that are watching... Look, I like, when I was going through the information, I pulled up stuff from PBS, I pulled up stuff from MSNBC, CNN, Fox News, Newsmax. I went because I wanted to see the way that all these different positions were. But the people on Newsmax, they would just say some of the stupidest fucking things, like it's just a fantasy world. Like I can't even articulate.
It's totally out of control, and I think they're really trying in the media. They're trying to make Biden look bad. And Trump didn't have anything to do with it, or very little.
Mm-hmm.
Because the people leaving to Mexico, they started leaving in like 2008. Well, they continued to leave, or more of them were leaving than were coming over, right? Well,
so people were going back more than they were coming.
And then now Biden is president, and we're getting more illegals. I think they estimated like 1.5 million.
Mm-hmm.
So the New York Times and all of these other fucking websites are making it look like it's Biden's fault that these illegals are coming over. And I don't know if they're doing it to actually bash Biden and celebrate Trump. Because they're not just giving people the news. I mean, because with a headline like Biden lets 1.5 million illegals in, that's not a headline that's saying, hey, way to go. So I don't know.
But it has your point that it has maybe less to do with the president than it does. I mean, there's no doubt that like when you have things in place like DACA, that's going to affect certain attitudes. But even though like that's in place, they still don't have a pathway. I mean, it's not like there's a fucking real way for people to develop to have citizenship. The rhetorical position of like a pathway to citizenship is there, but there is no fucking. I mean, right? I mean, like, right? The dreamers.
Yeah.
There is no effectively no way for they say we want this to be possible, but the creating the actual process that would create to allow them to become formal U.S. citizens still does not exist.
It doesn't exist, and there's a reason for that. I mean, these people are modern day slaves, and they say that they're taking our jobs and whatever, but they're taking jobs that we don't want.
Yeah, there's the political economy of this, yes, is something that.
And really, if you just look at the agriculture portion, those jobs generally, I mean, even if, say, a citizen were to do it, regardless of color, they generally pay you by the piece or whatever, by the pound or by the bushel. They don't pay you by the hour. And there's no fucking way a citizen of the United States is going to do that.
No. Dude, even if they're getting paid a lot of money, they're still not going to do it. They don't want to fucking do that kind of work. But yes, but your bigger point is correct. Of course, there is a hierarchy that's in place. But even still, like, there's a difference between the people that are coming across illegally and they're undocumented, and somebody who's like born here to parents who are undocumented, but because they're born here, they have certain other, like, they can be they're sort of in that space in between.
Right.
They're doing different types of work than the person that's working in the field or doing the heavy labor, the day labor stuff.
But those field workers and even the construction workers and those people, they're keeping costs low.
Down, yes.
So that the price of tomatoes doesn't go up to $9 a pound, and the price of beef goes up to $40 a pound, and a gallon of milk now is costing $9 or whatever, because it's, I don't want to say trickle down economics because Reagan was kind of a fucking idiot, but
if you could do it like Ben Stein did it,
I would say trickle out is probably a better thing, because if the cost here is going up, then all of these other costs that are outside, the secondary and tertiary type costs, are going to go up too. So I like trickle out better, because I was talking about agriculture, so I can't say trickle down because there's nothing necessarily underneath it for that to trickle down to.
It still has a real golden shower feel to it, though, to be perfectly honest with you.
Sorry. I'm sitting here trying to fucking do math. So I figured if an illegal was making $500 a week, then I'll round it up to 5% for Social Security. And then that would be $287,500,000 that they're putting into Social Security every week at $500 a week. And so those are the illegals that are actually working for a paycheck. Those aren't the agriculture people. Those guys are working for a paycheck too, but they're not on the clock.
Yes. Fuck. I understand the distinction. Sure.
Well, I figured you did. I just wanted to make sure that it was clear for our 4 listeners.
I think we might have 5 now. We might have hit.
So I mean, that's a fuck ton of money that's never coming back to us.
Well,
ever.
It's never coming back to them. It's coming back to us.
Well, maybe.
Ish.
Yeah.
It goes into a system that we benefit from on some level, and that unless they get naturalized all of a sudden, which of course they're not going to, because they exist as this sort of like invisible population.
Right. But even if they got naturalized, they can't say, well, I worked for 20 fucking years on that guy's social. I want that money too. Right?
Yeah, it would be difficult to, yeah.
That would be kind of funny. That would be like when I went into the bar for my 21st birthday and I showed them my ID and they were like, well, happy birthday. It says you're 21. You've been coming here for like 2 years.
Well, or just like when we went to standby personnel, when I was like 13.
Right.
And we painted that fucking...
And maybe that's why we kind of... And I don't want to make it sound like we know what these people go through.
We get a snapshot of it a little bit, though, from that experience.
Yeah, but just, working with the day laborers who, in a lot of cases, were illegals, you kind of... You can empathize with them more, because even if we didn't walk the entire mile in their shoes, we walked a little ways,
It is a fucking like it is such a royally like odd situation where you have these people that like cling to these very specific rhetorical like I hate him, I hate him, I hate him, but at the same time, like,
Not stupid people, but Mexicans in this case, right? Is that
I'm
who you're talking
about
about?
like the people that watch news.
Just the xenophobic
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
They cling to that disposition because they really don't understand the way that they essentially relate to that social hierarchy. But I mean, like, how fucking lucky are you if you fucking are born in the United States?
Pretty fucking lucky. And I think you're lucky no matter, well, no, not no matter where you're born, but oh fuck, I can't find it now. But there was some stat that I read that said like never mind. Never mind. Skip that stat because you didn't hear anything anyway.
Strike that. Reverse it. It is very, very odd that like there are these gigantic populations of people that like I mean it's like India, like the what do they call the people that you can't touch? But I mean that's like what these entire populations are throughout the planet. They're like
The untouchables.
The untouchables. Yeah,
Dildo.
But I mean, they're socially invisible. I mean, they don't even exist in the hierarchy of the most peculiar, hierarchy on the planet.
Which I don't understand that entire system anymore because I thought that the caste system in India had been eliminated like 10 or 12 years ago.
Nah.
Like they said it was illegal and there were no more such things as untouchables.
You got Mahdi again, I mean, it's curious and it's funny. Like there was all this stuff that was written. So like when the British were going, and there was an effort to sort of like to modernize and to liberate. And then somebody said no, you use the system that's in place and you say that you celebrate it, but you use that as the hierarchy that you glom on from the side from that colonial position, which is essentially what they did, and they did all over the place. They did it in fucking South Africa. Now I'm going way on all these other things, but it's the caste system definitely is not.
Well, but those people really, when you talk about, because I don't know any other illegal populations. I've never hung out with somebody from China that was here illegally, but I have hung out with people from Mexico that are here illegally.
Yeah, Zosimo, yeah, and those peeps, yeah.
Yeah, and I know that they worked fucking hard, and
they were really bad poker players, though,
and really bad with strippers. Because again, they were used to strippers in Mexico, and it's an entirely different thing.
The culture is a little
yeah, because he said he gave her $5, so he fully expected like
rub and a tug.
No, not that, but he was trying to finger bang her.
Oh, wow, that is a different culture.
Yeah,
better get back down to TJ, though. So, not the same thing.
Well, and he did. He did go back down to Mexico.
He go back and forth pretty regularly back then.
He did, but now he stayed there. He bought a cab and he runs his own business and
in Mexico.
Yeah.
The economy's become it's different down there now.
But that's why they left. Everybody was leaving in 2008. Right, and if you're treated like shit here,
why the fuck? Yeah.
Why stay?
Especially because you can get capital, you can go and you can invest in something down there, and
I think a lot of that had to do with not just the fact that he made the list, but Carlos Slim. He did what a lot of people with that much money should do, and they should reinvest in reinvest in their people is what I'm trying to say. They should try to
their people
bring people up as opposed to keeping them down. And I'm sure that he has several of his own modern day slaves. But
Who's Carlos Slim?
the big telephone magnate from down there, he ended up on the. Well, he took Bill Gates' spot a few years ago
Oh,
as the
he's
number one.
super.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, he's fucking loaded.
Mhm.
And when Mexico gets a billionaire, then things have got to kind of at least flatten.
Depends. Might be slim pickings. Sorry. What
Dildo.
what am I supposed to do with that?
I don't know.
I'll do better next time.
No, that was actually pretty good. So maybe they were untouchable because I know a lot of people treated them like shit. But like I said, they worked hard, and in the case of that guy that I knew who mistreated a stripper and couldn't play poker worth a shit, he lived in a 1-bedroom apartment with like 5 other illegals. So instead of paying, $1,200 a month for his own place, they split $1,200.
They're industrious. They were here to make money and
Well, and they made money, but they spent a lot of money too. So I mean, if Social Security makes $287 million a week, then imagine what they're making off of sales tax, because these people, the illegal people, buy shit. Yeah. They buy a lot of stuff.
Revenue streams are real. That's for sure.
And I couldn't even think about, because they bought all kinds of shit. I mean, they like jewelry, pickups, hats.
Why is it that where you have like these obnoxious fucking like political discussions where is it just to sort of like keep everything sort of like in that space where you have the people that think that they need to be the do-righters, doing the AOC kind of thing, and then the ones that don't understand the political economy of it, but they still are like tied to this notion of nationalism in the United States that's sort of like totally fucking doesn't exist anymore, but it exists in their mind. And it's like these are sort of stabilizing features to the entire system. Like we know that democracy doesn't exist as a system, but like the concept of democracy in our mind is essential. So like you have all these people doing these things that interact with concepts like immigration, right? In a certain way where they're functioning, but the way that they're functioning does not reflect it doesn't demonstrate a genuine understanding of the way that that these transient populations are being utilized as disposable labor forces on a global level. They're it's just like these fantasies that different actors feed into for catharsis so that they can be a part of that system too without ever really engaging the way that the system actually reproduces on the daily.
Do you think it's catharsis, or is it something more like they want to feel not important, but like they know and understand? They want to be able to talk around the water cooler. They want people to like them.
That's what I mean by catharsis, though. Is that so? Like the fucking the 1%ers and the fucking what's the douchebags? The proud, and of course those are the hyper extreme ones. And then there's the ones that sort of like say the things that they say, but don't really they're not going around like beating fucking.
See, I was just thinking of the majority of the people where they are just water cooler talkers, and they're the ones that parrot, Hannity or Maddow or whoever is on the news.
But that is catharsis. That they like. That is just, it's like the illusion of being, like I said, like the people that, give those dreamers access to, and they're like, fuck you, the United States, if you're not born here, it's this whole, it's just this dialogue that, again, like it doesn't really ever go anywhere, at the end of the day, Trump's policy might have been a little bit shittier, but Obama was doing horrible fucking things before Trump got there, and Biden is not doing much better now that Trump is gone.
No, and they're not going to, because the politicians want this to be this way. That's just the way it is. They want everybody to think that they don't, but you imagine what the economies of fucking Texas and California would do. And Colorado. But I didn't mention Colorado because we're not down there on the border. But imagine what those economies would do if they said, you know what, we're done. No more illegals. You cannot work if you were not born here or have a green card.
Yes.
Those economies would fucking just flatline. They would die.
Uh-huh.
I mean, California, everybody thinks that their number one revenue stream is media and movies, and it's not. It's agriculture. Texas, it's probably agriculture there too. If not, it's oil and mining. But then they both, have fishing and shit like that. And there are illegals that are doing that shit. I kind of want to see it happen.
You don't.
No, I don't really. But I mean, I kind of do, just because I want to see what all of these people would say or do. Like the one that was always around the water cooler, and she said, oh, well, these illegals bother me. I don't understand why they're here. Why can't they just go home? And then the next day her fucking bank account's empty and fucking inflation is through the roof, and it costs you $9 for an apple.
Well, even if they see behind the curtain, and like they see the Wizard of Oz for what the Wizard of Oz is, they're still not going to. I mean, that's like the tragedy of the whole thing is that.
So you think if everything did take a shit and the economy essentially died because well, you know what? Maybe you're right, because I said the same thing about syntax. They don't want us to stop smoking or stop using nicotine or drinking or whatever. And if we did, the economy would tank there too. So maybe you're right. Maybe they wouldn't know.
And the really horrible things would happen. The things that you talked about, things that things that I could see coming anyway, where you have these, the rhetorical right-wing jackass militia people, because they don't have any other way to survive at that point in time. So they're going to become criminals, or the criminal attitude in relation to stealing from anything else that's left, banding together with other assholes, that are ignorant like they are, because that's the way that they can survive at that point. I mean, it's odd that nobody ever really wants to get to the bottom of it. I mean, it's like if I think that I really wish that I could bring Gramsci forward, out of the prison from Italy, when he was writing in the prison notebooks about taking the ideas of democracy and saying democracy is really about consent armed with coercion. It really isn't about this fantasy land that everybody sort of thinks it is in the United States,
choosing your leaders.
Yeah, I how the depth of how correct he was, and how you'd have these different factions at the top that were manipulating these spaces and very good at tapping into. I mean, you Trump or not, he found a new way to tap into a very specific energy that he is utilizing. That's incredible.
That's also one of the reasons that I hate stupid people, because that's what he basically tapped into.
Yes.
Is he took everybody with a fucking IQ of 85 and below, and they jumped on his bandwagon.
But you know what we never talk about? Tapping into smart people, because
there aren't that many of them.
Yeah, there isn't this desire or this space to sort of elevate a person's self and be oh, that doesn't maybe we could, if we started doing that together and we worked this out together, and like, and you do this and I could do that. Nobody ever fucking gets to that space,
No, there's no discussion.
Mhm.
And we didn't talk about it. I know I've said the words modern day slavery multiple times now, but we didn't talk about outsourcing. And even if we said, fuck it, no illegals can work ever, which we're not going to do.
Yes.
But there's a lot of the stuff that could still be done elsewhere because it is being done elsewhere. I mean, a lot of our cars are manufactured in Mexico. Our clothing is manufactured in some third world country somewhere. Bangladesh, Vietnam. It used to be India, but now India's economy is too big, so we can't do it there anymore. So they found other places to, keep their profit margins whole. And maybe we need to talk about that farther down the road. And I think we also need to talk about the discussion thing and, having the ability to admit that you're wrong and open up a dialogue to where we might be able to change something. And I don't mean you and me, but I mean finding smart people to help with this, because a lot of people just figure, fuck it, I'm smart, so I can just continue doing what it is I'm doing.
Well, on some level, what we're doing here is that experiment. I mean, we're finding out things. I mean, and hopefully that would be the point. With other, I mean, yes, like because holy fuckity fuck, but like I just don't even know how to like. I just like I just you want people to want to try to make that step, to take that, to take that, because like if the journey doesn't even like, and I don't believe like I like Marx, I like Hegel, which means that there are certain aspects of history or concepts of history that I like tend towards, but I really don't even know if I believe in history at all right now, because like when people talk about like Marx, there's a sort of a teleology, like it's going to go from feudalism to capitalism to socialism to communism, and I think that's a bullshit interpretation anyway. But I think that the more important thing about that sort of notion is that there's this belief in steps, like clear and concrete steps, and also that there's sort of like an absolute inertia that's tied to those. Like once you get, the internal contradiction of capitalism will cause the workers to come together and band together, and then we'll stand together. And I mean, that's just absolute nonsense.
Well, but the people in power, make sure to keep certain things in motion to where we will not band together.
Yeah.
There's different opiates for the masses. There's, TikTok and Facebook. There's the NFL and the Major League Baseball. And
there's the construction of space where people do believe that there's progress that's happening, but not happening.
Right.
I mean, these opiates, I mean, can be so complicated, and like they have to be visceral and narrative, and like you have to emotionally attach to them, and believe them. It's like a fucking religion at some point in time,
Well, and they do a lot of that too, where they are telling us, oh, well, this is what we've been doing. And the reason that they're telling us that is so that so we don't look under the table. We're coming up on 50 minutes. I think we could probably talk about this for another hour, especially if we spin off into different tangents and stuff. But, what are we going to talk about next week?
Maybe we what was it that you were just
outsourcing?
The outsourcing. And I think the outsourcing, if we tie the outsourcing back to some of these transient labor concepts and sort of like tie that into these networks that are sort of developing, I think that would be a good, a good next space.
So Monday we'll talk about outsourcing, and not just the United States, but outsourcing as a whole.
Yeah, the networks, the big.
Wednesday, we'll keep it light again. I don't know.
We're gonna do the Marvel thing.
Oh yeah, Marvel, and what it has become from what it was, because now Disney owns it, and
And I'm
it's
gonna talk
mostly
shit about
piece of
nation
shit.
states. Fucking nation states. Fucking nation states piss me off.
And then I don't know. We'll surprise you for Friday, but hit us on TikTok at Short Bus Debate Club, Twitter Short Bus Debate. Phone number is
720-334
roll roll roll. Thanks for listening. Sorry we went over. You guys have a good day.
The tires are the things on the short bus that take us back to our abode.
Yay.